Cheers and welcome to Irondale Brewing. I don't have a beer because it's still 11 in the morning. So we'll just get going with the topic of the day, which is indoor brewing and the challenges around condensation. So the problem I ran into when I moved into this new brew space is I put just a normal range hood in, and it does not keep up very well with condensation that is generated while you're boiling something for, an hour. So I attempted to solve that. We'll talk about the problem, some of the solutions, and kind of what I did. I do want to go back a little bit and kind of talk about kind of how I got started brewing. And that was back in the 1990s. There was no internet, there was no brew in a bag, there was no electric all-in-one systems, none of that stuff. So like many people, I picked up a copy of this book, older version of it, but this is Charlie Papazian's The Complete Joy of Homebrewing. And that's how I got started. I took that into my local homebrew shop and said, I want to make beer. And they set me up with all the equipment and gave me some really great advice. I got started out of the gate, even though I was doing extract with specialty grains. And, they gave me some advice on hops and the process and all that stuff. So I got off to a really good start with this book and their help. But back then, without all the, the brew in the bag and the all-in-one systems and kind of the newer methods of doing things, it was either you did extract on your stovetop or you did all grain on a big 3, vessel system. I had friends that did that. It would take them, 8, 12 hours, depending on how much beer they were drinking while they were brewing. And I just didn't have that kind of time. I was in grad school at the time. And so I just decided to do 5-gallon extract with specialty grain batches on my stovetop in my little house. And basically you just get the biggest kettle you can handle, and you boiled as much as you could. It's partial boil, and then dump it in the fermenter after you chill it down and top it off. And some people still do that. John Palmer mentions that method in his How to Brew book. It's still kind of a semi-common thing to do, I would think. Nowadays I do more all grain than extract. Still do some extract for experimentation purposes, which we'll see in the next video I'm coming out with. But basically indoor brewing, condensation gets generated. In this space, I just use an induction heating deal, whatever you call them, hot plate thing. And I do 2.5-gallon batches, but it still the range that I had was not keeping up with the condensation. So couple ways to solve that. One is you can, of course, brew outside. That doesn't particularly work well in the Pacific Northwest. Plus, with the volumes I do, it's just a lot easier to do it on a little induction cooktop, and because I do usually 2.5-gallon batches these days, still some 1-gallon batches as well. So I wanted to keep brewing indoors. Another solution was to get what's called a condensate hood. And if you've ever been lucky enough to work in a restaurant as a dishwasher, which I did in my younger days, those are the hoods they put over the big industrial dishwashers to handle the steam that comes out of there. So it's designed specifically to handle steam and not kind of cooking related stuff. So the concept with those is they kind of have plates that are at an angle, and the condensation goes up and then runs down and then out into a drain. So I looked into getting a custom condensate hood built for this space. It's still an option. It's very expensive. It's going to be $2,000 to $2,500. And the other issue is going to be very heavy. So I'd have to hang it from the ceiling instead of the lighter range hood that I have hanging from my wall. And I don't even know if I have, kind of bracing in the right place up there to do that. So decided before I go that route, I'll do the much cheaper solution, spend a couple $100 and much more of my time than I thought it was going to take to see if I can just make this range hood that I already have work. So, and then another option for indoor brewing to deal with condensation is you can get what's called a steam condensing lid for your kettle. And basically the way that works is you have a lid, so you're boiling with the lid on, and then it has a pipe that goes out of the lid and down into basically a collection bucket, and you have to have a water supply and a pump to have the whole system work. I'll put links, so I don't want to get too into how that works for the purposes of this video, but I'll put links to a couple of options. And I like simple, and I also use different kettles depending on what I'm doing. So I didn't want to get tied to a specific kettle and a lot of clamps, a lot of hoses, pump. I want to avoid that if I can. So, but that is another option. And if you're into the whole gadgetry of it, that might be fun for you. It didn't seem fun to me, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. And the other thing you can do is not worry about it. Relax, don't worry, have a home brew, and just, hey, if you get a little condensation on your range hood and it drips down onto your counter, you don't want to drip it into the beer. keep it off to the side. In my case, it was kind of collecting in the middle, and I made sure it wasn't over the kettle. But it was one more thing to worry about during the brewing process. Like if I can eliminate that, it would be awesome to do that. So what I ended up doing, like I said, is I gutted the range that I had. I took the the fan and motor out of it, all the lights, basically anything that had a screw or was connected, wiring. I ripped it out of there and got a different inline fan that is just a little more powerful. I don't think the power was my problem with the original range hood. It was almost 400 CFM. It was just, the condensation would just sit there instead of being kind of more gracefully dealt with. And the way I did this video, that's the little intro. I'm going to show you the end result. And then the rest is if you want to see the process of me doing it. I just thought I'd stop here if you just want to kind of see the end result. I have not tested it yet. That's the other teaser for cliffhanger for this video is I'm going to test it for the first time tomorrow in a brew day now that everything's put back together. Don't know if it's going to work or not. My fingers are crossed, but we'll see. So you can keep watching if you want to see the whole thing. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. All right, and here is the end result. As I said, I just gutted my original fan. My phone is just focusing very sporadically. I don't know what's going on there, but I just gutted the original fan, took everything out of here that was packed full of the fan housing and a bunch of other stuff. So I took everything out of there, did silicone down in the trenches along the edges there to seal those up, waterproof tape in the back there to cover the holes where the screws came out, and kind of along wherever there were gaps, I put that Gorilla tape stuff in there. And then a new inline fan that is an AC Infinity Cloudline T6. And it doesn't line up exactly. The original thing was covered with a metal sleeve, so you didn't see the fact that it was out of alignment a little bit, but that's what I had to work with. So it's fine. It'll do the job, I hope. And then off to the right there is a smart dimmer plug and the driver for the LED lights that went around the perimeter. And the reason I went that route is because I have under cabinet IKEA lights already that were controlled with the remote. And with that in place, I can hit this one button. Since I plugged this all into SmartThings compatible stuff and get lights. So I have my under cabinet lights and my LED lights all controlled by that one switch. This thing also, the fan does have a smart controller. Don't know how we'll be able to see that. Let me turn the lights off here, see if that works better. Okay, and I doubt I'll use it. This is more for hydroponic growing. You can put sensors in for humidity and temperature to automatically kick things on and off. But that's how you control the fan. It's pretty quiet. If you keep watching, you'll see I do a little clip with so you can hear the volume. But anyway, that's what I came up with, and we will find out how well it works tomorrow. Hello, homebrewers. It's going to be an infrastructure project weekend in the brewery. Since I have a couple of batches in progress, it seemed like a good one's in the kegerator already, one's in the should be cold crashing here in a few days. Seemed like a good opportunity to take a pause in the actual brewing process and address some issues with this range hood in particular. You probably already know where I'm going with this, but basically this is a kitchen range hood, isn't really designed as a condensate hood, so it does not do a great job of keeping condensation from dripping during the brewing process. It doesn't drip into the beer because I'm kind of off to the side, and the kind of choke point for the condensation, I'll show in a second, is kind of in the middle. But it's irritating, and I'd like to fix that if I can. So the idea here is that I will gut this range hood and replace the fan. It's an inline fan that'll go up in the ducting there and replace the ducting also, and then turn it into a better solution that won't drip while I'm brewing. This range hood did come with kind of baffle type filters that I have taken out because that made it way worse. But still, this is the fan here, and basically the condensation all hits this point and drips during the brewing process. Pretty much most of the hour-long boil. So that's kind of an irritant. The thing I have going for me with this range hood that should make this project not a total nightmare is the sides are already slanted, and obviously all that space up in there. Some of them, some range hoods have a different configuration that would make this more difficult. Sides are already slanted, which should mean the water, will go down, follow the path down to these channels down here, which aren't sealed up and at the corners they aren't connected, but I think that's fixable with a little bit of cutting and some sealant. And then I'll probably have to run some sort of a channel, like a gutter that isn't totally level. It kind of routes the water around here, and then idea being drill a hole in the corner, run a line down into the sink. That may be total overkill. The problem may kind of resolve itself once I get the guts out of there and get that fan up in the ducting. So the fan is this AC Infinity inline. I think it's a Cloud T6 fan. Some different black, a little bit black, more rigid ducting to replace the flimsier stuff I have up there. And this fan does come with a nice controller that you can do humidity to kick it on and temperature to kick it on and so on. I think these are more designed for hydroponic stuff, but it'll work great for my purposes, I hope. And hopefully that will eliminate one of my biggest annoyances with the brewing space that kind of remains. So I will kind of take a few clips of video as I work through this project, and hopefully it'll be interesting to other people. All right, so a few minutes later here, we have everything torn out of here. It was actually not too bad. The unfortunate thing is the fan, you can see, is all one piece. So the ring that sticks up out of the top to attach the ducting and the duct collar to, I'll figure something out about that. I assume that's a standard, probably Home Depot part you can get for stuff like this. But anyway, basically it's just unscrew every screw you see. Some came on this thing, came through the back, and some were through the top holding the fan in place. But other than that, it was basically just cut some little plastic zip tie kind of things and detach everything. I did leave these in place. I don't know that I'm going to be able to use anything to get the lights going in. It's nice having the lights, but yeah, I don't know what impact I had on the front panel there where you turn the lights on and so on. So that's probably being overly optimistic. My plan is basically just probably put a LED strip along there or something like that. And I already have LED under counter lights in the brewery, so I can probably just daisy chain those together since I have a couple open ports on those. That should work out decently depending on how the wires get routed. But that step was not too bad. The next thing I'll probably do is start figuring out the collar, and then also, I don't know how well you can, the angles get weird, but basically that kind of works. Basically where the corners join, it's just separate pieces, and there's no continuity between them. So ideally, I'd like to set up a channel, and we'll have to, plug some of these holes with some sealant or something like that to get the water running, condensation running. Again, maybe overkill, I think, with all this open space, the fan up higher, the angled sides, we might be okay. But, since I got the thing all gutted, I might as well do it as nicely as I can. More updates soon. Really quick update on this. After I got everything torn out of there and looked at it more, the panel that was up here, unfortunately I already chucked it, that had the lights in it, I just decided to take that off as well. It just screwed in here, and that opens it up a lot more. And there's a lip in here too. And I think the next step here is going to be, I'm probably going to hook it up, and luckily the way it mounts on the wall, it just hangs on a bracket, so it's really easy to test this out and then take it down and refine it later. But I think I'm going to get it all sealed up with some just with some silicone sealer, like where there's gaps here. I don't think I'm going to go as far as getting these brackets between that hold it together, like here. I thought about, as I mentioned earlier, cutting those pieces out and trying to make a channel that was all continuous. My wife took a look, and she's handier than I am by a long shot, and suggested maybe just drilling little holes down in there and then kind of just hang it up, get the fan hooked up, and see how it goes with a brew day or two. It could be with that much more open space and the fan, up inline instead of in the way in the guts of the hood, it may be fine. So that way it would probably save me a lot of extra effort. But I will seal it up. I think I am going to go ahead and drill a hole down here for a drain, and put something flush that I can, and then a barb sticking out that I can hook a tube up to if I need to refine this further, or for some of the water to escape that way if it gets bad. But anyway, that is a quick update, and I'll keep doing more steps here and take some video as I go. Okay, so we finally have all the parts that I needed to get the range hood situation sorted out. It took a little bit of time for it to locate and get some of these, since modifying an existing range hood is not the simplest thing in the world in terms of fitting and stuff. So I have a start collar. This is going to go up into the range hood, since on the old one, the start collar was a molded piece with the fan also, and since I gutted all that stuff out, you lose that. Then we got a little bit of black AC Infinity duct tubing. This stuff is nice. It's kind of it's heavier duty than like that stuff. So it's, and you know, it's black, and since it's going to be exposed, I think, unless I make another collar, looks a little bit nicer. And then these two sleeves are noise dampening sleeves. So I'm gonna hook those kind of to the top and bottom of the fan. Hopefully keep things a little bit quiet. Fan's pretty darn quiet, but that's the fan housing without the fan in it. That'll get mounted to the wall. And then a backflow preventer that's spring loaded. So basically, when the fan is blowing, these things will blow up. And then when it's not, they will flap back down to keep air from coming back in. So those are the parts in the hood, of course. And we do some lighting and stuff as well, so I'll detail that as I go. So step one, getting this stuff all put back together, is going to be epoxy the start collar up in there. I thought about using screws, but that seems like more of a pain than I want to get into. And I don't need it to be removable. If I put all this stuff together and want to do something different in the future, I'll probably just go ahead and pull the trigger on an actual condensation hood. So anyway, that'll be step one. Okay, so here we are post epoxy and quite a bit of silicone. Problem I ran into is that collar fits nicely, but it's hard to see now. I have all that goop on there, but there's a plate at the top that bumps out more than the plate or there is no plate at the bottom. So create a little bit of an angle there, and given the nature of the shape of the hood and all that, there was no real way to clamp it. So I basically just epoxied it, held it there just by hand, pushing hard for 5 minutes or so. That seemed to make it stick, and then the gaps that were caused, I just jammed a bunch of silicone in there that I hope will cover that up. I'll have a little bit of cleanup to do. You won't really see it, but I don't want it to be quite that ugly. And then I will probably put a couple of screws in there to kind of cinch it up as well once all that stuff sets. I was pretty wrapped up in the process of installing and mounting the fan, so I unfortunately failed to take video of those steps. But this first photo is of the bottom ducting and noise reduction sleeve going onto the start collar, and at the top is the backflow preventer in the top ducting. I actually ended up moving that down into the ducting right above the top of the fan. It's actually at the top of that noise reduction sleeve, so I could more easily get the ducting worked up into the hole in the ceiling. And then the second photo is of the fan housing and upper ducting, or I should say the fan mount and upper ducting and noise reduction sleeve in place prior to the fan itself going in. I have quite a bit of cleaning to do, but that is the fan installed. As you can probably tell, some challenges with the alignment of the hole in the ceiling versus the hole versus the collar at the top of the range hood. Of course, that was covered up with the sleeve when I had the original setup going. But, not the end of the day. Or not the end of the world, sorry. I'm tired. I've been working on this for all weekend. Finagling all the tubing and getting that all in there was more of a process than it probably should have been. Because, not a lot of room. As you can see, it's pretty tight in there. Not a lot of room for error. But it's in there. And it seems to be pretty quiet. I'll turn it on here in a second. But basically, yeah, that's just going to be the fan that's going to pull stuff up from under here, which is totally gutted out now, as I've probably shown several times. This fan does have a smart controller. I don't know why I even got this thing, but it was only 20 bucks more than the one that just had a switch. So anyway, I'm going to, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'll see if I can turn the switch mics on the fly on this video, but basically it has 10 settings. And it has kind of a nice ramp up. I'll turn it halfway up, and then I'll unplug the mic and see if that works. Okay, so this should be room noise now, and I'm standing right under it, halfway up, fairly quiet. And I didn't, even with my old one, have to run the thing full bore to keep the steam out as much as it could. So I'll turn it up to 10. Why not? So that's all the way up, and I'm standing right underneath it. Again, that would be overkill for brewing. A little bit loud, but not too bad. Sorry, I just realized I still have a headlamp on from when I was putting the final touches on the thing. And this smart controller, this is an AC Infinity Cloudline T6, and this smart controller does, do temperature and humidity and has a clock and blah, blah, blah. And I think what I'm going to do is it has a little flip out stand on the back, but I think probably what I'm going to do is just mount it over here using a couple of command strips. If it doesn't get in the way of my plugs there, but we'll see. But anyway, feels good to have that mounted, because that took far longer than I would have liked, given all the working with the hose and taping it to the hose that was already up in the attic. So I didn't have to crawl around up in the attic. And so the next thing is going to be cleanup, cord management. I do have some lights to put up underneath there. So I got a light strip to go around underneath there to give a little more light when I'm brewing, since I lost the lights in the range hood. And I think that's about it. So I will record a little bit more when it's in better shape. With the fan in, we're ready to kind of clean up, do some refinement around the electrical stuff. So I did take the time to cut a plate to go around the bracket, because the space is pretty tight up here. Wasn't designed for this exact setup when we first did the build out on the space. So had to make some interesting decisions here. But I just took one of those, it's a Leviton or whatever the brand is, nylon plate. And if you get that, if nylon ones specifically, you can just cut them with a box cutter, basically. So that worked pretty well and sealed that up nicely. So that should be in good shape there. And then the next step will be to plug the fan in, do some cable management. And then for lighting, let's talk about the lighting a little bit. Sorry, I'm up on a ladder, so it's going to get weird for a second. But basically, for under cabinet lighting, I currently have IKEA lights. They're controlled by that switch. They go up underneath the cabinets, and since I gutted the range hood, of course, I lose the LED puck lights that were in the front of that. I got waterproof LED light strips to go up underneath there around the perimeter. And then to control those, because I couldn't find one that was a smart light that you could cut the end off of and get the right length, because I want that to be exactly the right length. And some of them you can cut, some of them you can't. The ones I got are Wi-Fi, but not they'd have to have their own app. And ideally, I would like to still have a switch stuck to the side of the fridge that I can just hit and turn all these lights on. So I got these Matter plugs, and in theory, they will work with, sorry, I'm totally moving around here. I didn't plan out what I was going to do here. But in theory, they will work with this smart home hub that is SmartThings. You can see up there, that SmartThings logo. That basically means that it will support multiple protocols. So the challenge with the lighting is, I got some cable management to do up here too, but this is the IKEA, and I'm going to try to say it, Tradfry, something like that. I guess I did try to say it, hub that does the under cabinet lighting and connects to that switch. In theory, with that hub, I should be able to support this protocol, which is Zigbee, and the Matter plugs. The reason I got these is because they're small. If you try to get a Zigbee plug, it's about twice that size, and it's not going to work up there. And in theory, with the hub, I should be able to have one switch. I had to get a new remote too, that will flip both the lights on. But we will find out when I get all that stuff hooked up. I'm in technology for a living. I won't at all be surprised if this doesn't work at all, because as a rule, smart home stuff is challenging, but we'll find out. And because I can't do anything without taking it to the overkill level, after you rip out the guts of the fan, there are of course some holes in there where things were mounted. And since those are exposed now, basically what I did is I took some Gorilla waterproof tape. It's probably kind of like Flex Seal type stuff. And put it over all the holes. And, you can see I, laid it down here, all there. probably overkill, but I mean, at a minimum, the ones in the back, I didn't want condensation just to potentially getting through the wall. And that should seal that up nicely. And, just decided to do the holes around the edges that didn't quite have full coverage from the silicone in the trenches to cover them completely. And that'll also help, any potential drippage down onto the lights that are going to get mounted kind of here. So that was the next step in this process. So probably mentioned a couple of times as I've been recording the various steps of this whole range hood redo process that I was going to put LED lights up, kind of, stuck to the perimeter there since I lost the puck lights that came with the range hood. And part of the reason for doing that is because I had to get the range hood. But the other problem with the range hood is the condensation was significant enough that the controls in the front would actually kind of go on the fritz while I was, not always, but some brew sessions, enough condensation kind of was up in there that the fan would shut itself off, and just that range hood was not designed for the level of condensation that you get with brewing. So LED lights. I took a run at some TP-Link Topo lights that were smart lights, color changing, et cetera, et cetera. They turned out to be a little bit of a nightmare because they were super thick with the waterproof coating on there. And I didn't think it would be an issue to go 90-degree turns to do the whole perimeter there. With those lights, it was. They were too thick. I peeled back the waterproof coating and kind of pleated them to go around the corners. And that ended up, I guess, damaging the lights, because by the time I was done doing all that, the lights didn't work. So these are, the brand is Hit Lights. Weird name, but I did a ton of probably more reading than I needed to and research to figure out which lights would work best. And the big challenges were well, I'll talk about a little bit, the controlling and all that stuff was part of the equation as well. But one of the challenges was finding lights that were waterproof that had cut points that were relatively short. And by cut points, I mean those copper colored areas are where you can cut the lights. And a lot of the multicolor lights, the cut points are like 8 or 10 inches, which if you're off in a finite installation like around the perimeter range of the range hood, you're just kind of screwed. Plus those thicker lights have more of a challenge going around corners. They're harder to cut, so on and so forth. So this seemed to fit the bill. These are not smart lights. They're just, it's an LED strip. It's just 12 volt light, but you can cut it every 2 inches, which is perfect. That was about as low as I can get. There were some that were a different type of light that was a continuous strip that you can cut every like 0.6 inches, but they are not waterproof. And waterproof is probably a little bit overkill for this installation, but I didn't get ones that were not at least, didn't want to get ones that were not at least water resistant. So the plan with this is to cut these to, the most length I can get on there within the confines of the cut points. And then use these around the corners. So what you do with that is basically, sorry, I'm trying to hold the phone and do this at the same time, is basically you just cut straight strips that will go along each edge. And then the corner, you plug that in both sides of it to navigate around the corner. Not gonna look the greatest with having those in the corner, but I'll tuck them up in there as best I can. And that's kind of where I landed in terms of solving this problem. As far as the controllers, like I said, these are dimmable, waterproof LED lights. And I got I believe the high density. You can see there's 3 lights between the cut points. They do make a standard density that I think only has 2. So basically I just figured why not get as much light as you can. They're dimmable. They come with just a standard 12 volt plug. It's not focusing. There we go. Well, there we go. And then obviously to get it to plug into 120, you do have to get a converter. I don't know if it's an inverter. I don't know electricity. So that's what this is. This is a driver, I think is the term they use. And turn around so you can see it's overkill. It's 50 watts. I think these lights, even if you use the whole strip, are only like, I want to say 30. But this is the dimmable driver. and let me take a step back. If you get smart lights that come with all this stuff, you don't have to worry about this. But since I was getting the lights separately for a very specific reason, then you have to kind of build back out to your how you're going to do your power. So this is a dimmable driver. It's important to get dimmable. The lights are dimmable. The driver's got to be dimmable for this all to work. My understanding is because then it'll send varying voltage to the actual lights. And then this obviously plugs into the 12 volt. You can't really see that, but yeah, anyway, you get the idea. That plugs into the lights, and it has just a regular plug on this other side. This is modular. You can take that stuff off of there and rewire it differently if you wanted to. And the other nice thing about these lights is that if I get into a situation where I need to do something different on the end, I get ends that I can replace by just clipping and clamping it down. I don't think I should have to do that, but we'll see. And then to make them smart and have them tied into the under cabinet lights with the single button, basically I just got it's already plugged in up there. I won't move the ladder at the moment, but I got a TP-Link outdoor just because it hangs down nicer. Smart plug, and then once I plug that into that, all that stuff worked. I've tested it with the whole strip and with the button, and it all works with the SmartThings setup, so should be pretty good. Next step is to actually start cutting these lights the right length, use those little clips to get them around the corner, and stick them out there. Real quick, I wanted to point out I made the first cut, and these lights, if you're looking, this is turning into an LED light video, sorry. These lights, if you are looking for lights to cut, are excellent. I misspoke earlier, you can actually cut them every inch, which is awesome. And you can hopefully see this. So on those Topo TP-Link lights, I was talking about the waterproof coating was actually, shouldn't even say that, it's more like it was a big piece of vinyl basically, was actually glued to the light strip, which made it kind of difficult to peel little pieces of it back. This one, it is kind of just a little sleeve, so this is really turning out poorly. But anyway, hopefully you can see in there, I'm losing a lot of focus. It's just a little sleeve, so that part sticking up there is actually the light strip itself. So I should be able to just really easily cut the part of it off that I need to expose the connectors enough to slip them under the those clips. So that makes these really nice. I was afraid I was gonna have to peel stuff, kind of scrape stuff off with a box cutter, but these, it's just basically a sleeve around it. It's gonna make it super easy. And we have light. So like I said previously, basically it's 4 strips connected with those clips in the corner. Doesn't look that great. I have some cable, finagling, managing to do, but that was kind of the only way it was going to work. But with the end clips stuck up there with some command hook stuff, type material, and I can get those wires curled around a little bit better and stuck in there, and I'll clip the back, and then the wire running down there obviously going to run up instead, up to there where you can see you can probably see that smart plug sticking down there, and I'll command hook that stuff to the wall. But we are making progress. All right, and with some cleanup and cord management, sorry about the tip there, I think I'm in pretty good shape. I got the fan controller mounted to the wall there. You can't really see the display, you can kind of see the display. A lot of reflection on that, sorry. And then just did some clips to run the wires up top. Lights are looking pretty good. I just put little clips for those corner wires. That's just, not ideal, but it got the lights up there. And then up top, on the right there, the black box there is the TP-Link smart dimmer, and then the thing next to it is the driver. And I just kind of, tied those cables together. Again, not ideal. I don't know. I may come up with a different solution, but for now, everything is up out of the way, and I think I'm finally at a point where I can do a deep cleaning of the whole joint and then brew some beer.